money around Morgantown has started to talk. And realignment never sleeps. Welcome to episode 44 of College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We need to share to all of you intel that we received from BTM on the gathering support in Morgantown among, let's just say, the money around Morgantown, supporting one particular candidate, making sure this one particular candidate will be evaluated, interviewed, processed by Shane Lyons in West Virginia Athletic Department if Neil Brown cannot save his job during the 2022 football season. Now, who is BTM? Well, there's a lot of new people watching this show every day. I would just ask you to go to my pinned tweet at Flug Empire on my Twitter account at Flug Empire, FLUGEMPIRE. You see the name going across the ticker at Flug Empire, and read the article in the Los Angeles Times who BTM is. BTM and his associates look at college football from a particular perch. We call it the money perch. I think you can figure out where that perch is and how they view things. We do have the information, real live intel, about who at least two, not just one, but two people in and around Morgantown that support West Virginia athletics, who they would love. If things go south here for Neil Brown and the rest of the season, who would they want and support a particular candidate for the new head football coaching job? Now, does that mean that Shane Lyons is going to listen to this money perch in Morgantown? He probably will to a certain extent. You have to take this information. I would take this information very seriously if I was you, if I was a Mountaineer fan or a college football fan. But I'll let you all decide that. But let's get on with what Shane Lyons said about the Neil Brown situation, about the West Virginia football program. It was Monday. This is from Mountaineer Now, Christopher Hall, Fan Nation. Just a small little article here. On Monday, West Virginia University Director of Athletics Shane Lyons gave a response to the Associated Press on the current state of the West Virginia football program after the Mountaineers dropped a 55-42 decision to Kansas on Saturday and fallen to 0-2 on the season. I know, this is Shane Lyons speaking, I know and deeply care that our fans are frustrated with the start of the football season, but so are the coaches and student athletes who have busted their tails getting ready for the year, said Lyons. As athletics director, I'm as disappointed as the fans, but I see how much our coaches, players care and want to win and make our fans proud. Everyone involved knows that the on-field results have not met expectations and absolutely no one is satisfied, added Lyons. There are 10 games left in the season and the focus is still on getting the results that we all expect. So I don't read that as a vote of confidence. I just read that as Shane Lyons basically saying, I hear you, West Virginia fans. I hear you, West Virginia alumni and boosters and big money boosters. I'm listening to you. This is frustrating. He's trying to gather the troops, trying to save this season with Neil Brown. But he's also basically saying if the ship doesn't get righted, changes are going to happen. That is how I read that, what Shane Lyons is saying. Please put your comments down in the comment section below the video on what you think Shane Lyons' message is. And please hit the like button. If you like the content of this video, please subscribe to our channel. It helps us with the algorithm so much at YouTube. And please share the video with your family and friends. Thank you so very much. Now, what is the name? Who is the name? Who is this person that West Virginia money in Morgantown wants to support as the new head football coach of West Virginia if a change needs to be made? That's Hugh Freeze, the head football coach of Liberty. This is serious. We got real intel on this. And it's the Hugh Freeze possible candidacy is not just supported by one, at least two money people around Morgantown. As you all know, the history of Hugh Freeze. He was the head football coach of Ole Miss. Did fantastic job at Ole Miss. First 4 years, they kept winning more and more games. They won double-digit season of wins. Fantastic job. And then a scandal hit at Ole Miss. I'll let you guys read about it if you don't know about it. But Hugh Freeze, fall from grace. But now he's doing a very good job at Liberty. And there are at least two people in and around Morgantown who want Hugh Freeze to become the new head football coach of West Virginia. If a change needs to be made, they want that redemption story to play out in Morgantown. They want he was a successful SEC coach to be the new head coach of West Virginia, Hugh Freeze. Now, we don't believe at Peek Around the Corner that any action has been taken by Shane Lyons. I mean, Neil Brown is the head football coach. We don't believe there's been any process in place. There's nothing's been triggered on Lyons' part, West Virginia's part. We are just giving you information, real intel. You can take it however you want. But money people, at least two, in and around Morgantown, that's the best way I can describe it, would support, want to have Hugh Freeze at the top of that search list for Shane Lyons if a change needs to be made. How we got the information, how it was expressed to us, we at Peek Around the Corner are taking it very seriously. We are not going to do a West Virginia hot board list until or when Neil Brown is released and fired as the head football coach of West Virginia. He still has time to save his job. I think it looks dire, but you all let me know what you think. But I think it looks very dire for Neil Brown. And if he gets fired, then we'll get into more of the hot board list, West Virginia. But I can tell you this, if a hot board list needs to be created, Hugh Freeze is going to be number one on our hot board 1.0 list because of the information that we received, BTM and his associates, from the money perch. And there's support there. There's support there for West Virginia. And for those who scoff that say that boosters make the decisions, no, they don't make the decisions. Big money doesn't make the decision. I mean, Shane Lyons will make the ultimate decision. But you got to understand, in the world of NIL, where boosters are putting in money in these collectives to try to help the recruiting of West Virginia athletics in football and basketball and other sports, but particularly in football, their voices have become louder. The big money has become louder in these decisions. It's not the final voice. The final voice is Shane Lyons, of course. But for those who would scoff at this particular piece of intel, I would take a step back. Hugh Freeze is definitely a name that you're going to want to follow if Neil Brown gets fired before the season is over, or even at the end of the season. But Hugh Freeze is going to be a hot name in this coaching carousel. I got a feeling West Virginia Shane Lyons is going to want to step in front of other universities that are going to be firing their head coaches during the 2022 season. And the particular intel we received was Hugh Freeze is being supported by at least two big money people in Morgantown. Now, let's get to Realignment Never Sleeps. I want to get to I want to look at this tweet here. This is from Flora Kelly from ESPN Insight. She's part of their marketing branding department, ESPN. Flora Kelly. It's her Twitter account here. And she put out a tweet, and I don't think it got enough notice. So I'm going to point it out. So far, 2 college football games, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Alabama and Texas, have surpassed 10 million viewers. This is the first time since 1994 that there have been 2 college football games in September to average over 10 million viewers. First of all, this is great news for all of college football. And I'm going to explain it in a second here. But this is great news. And again, okay, so Alabama and Texas, they're going to become conference mates in the SEC. At least start in 2025. It could happen earlier in 2024. We'll see how that plays out. But Alabama and Texas are going to be playing each other more often in the next decade than they have done in the previous 30, 40 years, right? They're going to be conference mates. If SEC goes to that 16 school with 9 conference games, 3 permanent rivals, you can see Alabama and Texas playing once every 2 years. So again, that consolidation of big brands versus big brands, shooting up look at 10 million viewers in the September game. And then you have the Notre Dame, Ohio State. We know that Notre Dame is still keeping an arm length away from the Big Ten. If you believe all the reports, Notre Dame still wants to keep their independence. We've gone through that in all the other episodes. But the forces of consolidation is still there. Notre Dame's, we believe, a peek around the corner. Notre Dame's ability to remain independent is going to be strangled here in the next few years. We've gone over the reasons why. We're not going to go over the reasons why in this episode. But you can see in Notre Dame, Ohio State, if you can vision Notre Dame being the Big Ten, again, a lot more viewers means a lot more money, a lot more valuable games, and it helps to raise all boats. Now, I remember a few years ago, listening to a radio program. The radio host was asking questions to a music industry leader. And the radio host was talking about some music award show where Adele was winning all these awards. And the radio host was saying, the best singer, best song, whatever. And the radio host went on to talk about how all the other artists, musicians, singers in the audience were cheering heavily for Adele every time she won. And there didn't seem to be any animosity, jealousy. They were cheering Adele on. And the radio and the guest, who is a big music industry, says, well, first of all, they probably all love Adele. But number 2, in the music industry, you want an artist, someone to just pop through every year and create huge sales. You want somebody to just bust open and have millions and millions and millions sales of the records because it raises all boats. And this music industry went on to say, you go buy an Adele record, or back in the day when you go buy a CD, what have you. If you buy hers, you probably will pick up some other artist's music. Or if you go back in the day of Elvis or the Beatles or the Rolling Stones or Tupac or whoever you want to go to, the big selling artists of the back in the day, when you went and bought their content, their music, their records, it would bring up everyone's record sales because you'd want to buy other ones. It's the same thing. It's not quite apples to apples. This is another one of my apples to oranges. But look at the college football world wants these big viewership games. Because once you put on the Notre Dame, Ohio State game, once you put on the Alabama, Texas game, now you end it. Now you get the casual fans into it. And they might click on a lower tier football game, content game. You want to see the big games have big viewership because the lower games will probably have higher viewership than in the past. And we're starting to see that in the numbers. Again, and another thing about this, right? So these are, for this particular time here in 2022, we see that Notre Dame and Ohio State is a non-conference game. Alabama and Texas is a non-conference game, although Alabama and Texas will be conference games going forward. But you see how the college football playoffs, if it was expand, 1 loss wouldn't put you out of playoff contention. 2 losses wouldn't put you out of playoff contention. In fact, I would argue there's a better chance of a team making it to the 12-team expanded playoffs with 3 losses than there is for a team with 2 losses to make it into the 14 playoff. In fact, we haven't seen a 2-loss team making the 14 playoffs, or at least I don't believe we have. My memory's going bad, but I don't believe we have. If we have, maybe there's one team, but I don't think so. But irregardless, so the college football expanded playoffs would generate even more bigger games in September. Big brands playing big brands, they won't have the risk factor, more the reward factor built into those games. Again, I think this is another shot against the purist who wants to keep the 14 playoffs going. Again, put down your comments down in the comment section below the video. I'll read them all. Agree with me, disagree on that. But again, I think just more evidence of expanded playoffs being better for the sport. So I expect, right? I expect you all know how I feel about this, how Peek Around the Corner feels. Realignment never sleeps. The college football world still wants bigger brands playing bigger brands more often. Consolidation when it comes to economics, when it comes to the total deregulation of college football, where super conferences get more and more power because they're making more and more decisions for themselves and for the institutions, for the student athletes, more compensation for the student athletes. We still think the forces of realignment and consolidation is in effect. Now, we're in the middle of this hot window from August 15th to October 15th. Decisions are being made right now. Will there be more expansion in the Big Ten? Or are they going to have to wait a few more years to add on a 17th and 18th school? Is there going to be the money there from new potential media companies, partners of the Big Ten, to attach on a 17th and 18th school of Washington, Oregon? We're going to find out very shortly. And if that happens, other dominoes will fall within regards between Big 12 poaching the Pac-12. So there's a lot to be decided. We're almost midway through this hot window that we were told in July and that we reported on, and you can see it all developing right now in real time. So please stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner in regards to the Nebraska Hot Board, in regards to the AP Top 25 and our prediction segments every Tuesday. And this never ever, realignment never ever sleeps. Remember that. Again, from all of us at Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, you all take care of each other. Thank you so very much.